Hello, I want to welcome you to today's webinar. We're going to be talking about raising digital natives. I hope that you find the next 20-30 minutes to be useful, helpful, and just some practical tips and a framework even to engaging and raising digital natives. Really, kind of, there's a word picture I can put in your mind for our webinar today. It's the image of a shift in thinking. My daughter has a lot of stuffed animals, and one of them is an elephant. Now, we had the privilege recently, a few years back, of being able to go on a safari. And in the process and midst of being on a safari, we ended up on top of a Jeep, and we came around a corner, and there standing before us was 3 to 4 young bull elephants. And in my mind, when I saw them, it was, oh, this is so cute. This is adorable. My wife and I were taking pictures because in my mind, this is what I saw. I saw a stuffed animal. I saw something soft, cuddly, peaceful, and nothing really to be afraid of. However, as I was staring at this, our guide got very afraid and said, don't look at it. Don't move. These are the scariest animals that will potentially cross today. So we can't outdrive them. They can run faster than this Jeep can go, and they're incredibly aggressive. And if they catch us, they're going to destroy us. And I think in some ways that this imagery shift helps to capture sometimes the way we view the internet. That because it's so prolific in our life, it's on our phone, it's the very engine oftentimes that drives some of our jobs or how we do our job. We can tend to use it so much that we see it as a stuffed animal instead of something that has a lot of power, and with that power, a lot of potential. In fact, just came across this quote recently. It said, we limit how much technology our kids use at home. And it wasn't written by an Amishman or someone who was concerned about the evils of the electronic age. It was actually said and captured by Steve Jobs when he was alive. And Steve Jobs really is a picture of what many CEOs of some of the largest tech firms actually practice, that many of them, the ones who create the devices and provide the infrastructure for the internet, tend to be the ones who are the most conservative about their kids' use of technology. That Steve Jobs, according to Walter Isaacson, in the midst of one of their interviews, commented that every evening, all the smart devices had to be put up so that while they ate dinner together, they could talk. And if the people who are supplying the devices and providing the infrastructure for the internet and for the network that we call the World Wide Web, if they see it like an elephant, a living, breathing, powerful being, shouldn't we take a step back too and change the way we think? That when it comes to the network, that we really need to start to understand that there's something that's required of us, a change in the way we think. And in the process of changing the way we think, changing the way we do and engage and raise digital natives. The first kind of segment I would encourage us to process through is that the network really does have components that make it dangerous, that it can be a net, that it can be something that can trap, enslave, or even destroy the lives of our children. And that if we treat it and engage with it with the understanding of the potential power for destruction it has, that maybe future stories like the Amanda Todd story could be spared. That Amanda became famous in October 2012 by posting a YouTube video of herself that was 9 minutes with just a series of slides, handwritten slides. And what Amanda unfolds in the course of those 9 minutes of handwritten notes is a storyline that captures the power of the net. You see, Amanda, through the process of being on the internet regularly, was a victim of pornography and that online predator was able to get her to take pictures of herself that were inappropriate, and then would proceed to use those pictures to blackmail her. And every time that she would move in trying to get away, that every time she moved to a new school, the online predator would continue to track her. And that as a 15-year-old girl, she was living with this reality of cyberbullying, of pornography, that there was just an addiction that spilled into drugs and alcohol to cover up the pain. And that one of the things that she wrote about the internet that was, I think, a painful lesson, but that many of us forget, is that it's out there forever. And that in the process of their formative years, they're being formed and shaped through these powerful experiences that oftentimes don't even happen in front of us. That Amanda Todd and the countless others like her who are victims of online predators, who are victims of cyberbullying, and who are victims of even pornography, that what happens in the process is that lives can be destroyed long before they even start. And that there is an aspect of the net that can be quite damaging, that may not end in destroying a life, but even as recent as the last couple of weeks with the passing of a public health bill for pornography, that the net can destroy images or identity or confuse or really start to devalue an entire gender. And that many kids are having their views of sexuality, of intimacy, damaged long before they even start relationships. And so if we can begin to realize that there's a net, then what can begin to happen is we can start to do the work. You see, while the net part can sound very discouraging and almost overwhelming, I think that there are 4 simple principles and practices that you and I can put into place that can really help us as we're raising digital natives. But as is implied, it requires work. The first is W, that where the device is matters more than what the device is. You see, I've talked to many parents. I've worked with students for over 10 years, and oftentimes what I hear parents engaging me in conversation about is the type of device. Whether it should be, is it okay if they have a smartphone? Or maybe I should just get them like a Kindle tablet or an iPad and, not a full-fledged computer. And what it oftentimes does is it leaves us with a sense of security, thinking that we've helped them, when in fact it's not about the what, it's about the where. The one universal rule that most tech CEOs, most Fortune 500 internet companies, their leaders had when it came to a parenting survey that was done recently, the number one rule that they all shared in common, period, was no devices in the bedroom. You see, this one simple rule of no devices in the bedroom could have probably made a significant difference in the story of Amanda Todd. You see, the cyber predators, pornography, just online addictive habits, and cyberbullying, all of these things flourish in the darkness, separated from us. But if the internet devices that are being used in our households are done in public view, that by itself could probably transform or prevent a tragedy. A large Canadian media study found that 39% of students slept with their phones because they were afraid they were going to miss something. And just imagine what we could do if we just established a simple rule that said, no devices in your bedroom. If we just set up a simple drawer that every night, smartphones, tablets just kind of were supposed to be placed in that drawer. The drawer was closed and nobody could get it through the night. Then you as a parent would know as you're sleeping that you don't have something like this happening in the bedroom down the hall. Now, it's not just that the where of the device is more important than the what. The O of it is, I think, a very helpful teaching tool for our children, that it can sometimes feel that online choices have no consequences. In fact, as they begin to research and investigate the potential cyberbully and online predator, even in the Amanda Todd case, what came out were 3 different suspects, and all of them were adult men, 2 of them in their 30s. And on the surface, it could seem like there's really no consequences to online choices and actions. You can write and say and do almost anything. In fact, even in the Amanda Todd case, it was very difficult for them to actually track down the individual who did it. That many of the names that even bubbled up, Anonymous, a hacker group, was part of trying to fish those names out. You see, when our kids use social media, and whether it's for sexting or whether for statements, they need to know that there's offline consequences, that pictures and words can stay forever on the internet, and that it goes well beyond the impact on their middle school or high school years and relationships. But like Amanda Todd's statement even said, it's forever. That future job applicants, that one day as an applicant to a job or to a college, that what they've said and done on the internet could literally come back to haunt them. And that it goes beyond just what we're writing and what we're posting. It's something as simple as teaching our children that their usernames and passwords are just as private and as protective as things like Social Security numbers. That information can be used against them, and that you shouldn't give it to your children. You should model passwords and username protection even with your own children. And the reason why is because, like most humans, we tend to simplify. And if you have one password, you know all the passwords. And so as a way of protecting them and as a way of modeling, this will allow them to realize that usernames and passwords have an importance. And by protecting them from getting yours, you potentially protect your devices from getting spyware or some type of Trojan virus, or something even more significant than a virus is at threat, where financial or personal information can be stolen, and a family member could even have their identity stolen in the process. But there's also the R, the regulate screen time, that while this is a personal decision, it's helpful to realize that technology is designed to be addictive. And that while many may criticize the Pediatric Society, that there are really strict guidelines that they've proposed for small kids, for teenagers, that in the process that these, what may be considered conservative or strict time restraints, such as a 10-year-old shouldn't have any screen time during a week, that it's intended to protect them because of the formative power that technology is having during these developmental years. In fact, here's a 4-minute video that I think captures it really well. It's pulls from Nicholas Carr's The Book, Out of the Shadows and the Internet, and it just really kind of captures in a visually compelling way why screen time should be regulated.
So you're reading an article online when you get an instant message with a link to a funny photo, which of course you have to share. And now you're reading your Facebook news wall, which sends you to a video of a panda bear attacking a kid. And now you're reading Wikipedia to learn everything you can about the violent behavior of panda bears. And this is what 3 minutes on the internet can be like. We live like this all the time, and it has to have some kind of effect on us.
The net is making us more superficial as thinkers.
That is Nicholas Carr. He is the author of The Shallows, What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains. To understand this whole thing better, we need to go way back in time, to say, like, the prehistoric age.
You wanted to know everything going on around you, because the more you knew about your surroundings, the less likely you were to get attacked by a predator. And there's even evidence that our brains release some dopamine, pleasure-producing neurotransmitter chemical, to reward us for seeking out and finding new information.
So getting distracted felt good and helped us stay alive. But the problem is that nowadays, predators aren't much of an issue, but we still have the same brains. And also, there's the internet, which is...
It's an incredibly information-rich environment that the net creates for us, and that's why we use it so much. I mean, sounds, pictures, words, text. And what this tends to do is promote a sort of compulsive behavior in which we're constantly checking our smartphone, constantly glancing at our email inbox. We're kind of living in this perpetual state of distraction and interruption.
Which is dangerous because...
that mode of thinking crowds out the more contemplative, calmer modes of thinking.
And that focused, calm thinking is actually how we learn. It's a process called memory consolidation.
And that means the transfer of information from our short-term working memory to our long-term memory. And it's through moving information from your working memory to your long-term memory that you create connections between that information and everything else you know.
So you've got this awesome life-changing piece of information in your short-term memory, but then you hear that email ding and poof, there it goes. That email takes its place and you never get a chance to learn anything, all because of one distraction.
So attention is the key, and if we lose control of our attention or are constantly dividing our attention, then we don't really enjoy that consolidation process.
But I can hear it now. Someone out there is saying, what does learning matter if all the information in the world is just a Google search away? Well...
that is kind of shortchanging our intellects. If that's the way you're using your mind, just kind of searching very quickly and finding information and then forgetting it very quickly, you're never building knowledge. You're kind of thinking like a computer.
Which means that our very humanity is at stake. And it would be a shame if we all got assimilated because, well, humanity is pretty neat.
I really believe that if you look at the great monuments of culture, they come from people who are able to pay attention, who control their mind. That's what allows us to think in the highest terms, and think conceptually, think critically, think in some very creative ways.
And it's this kind of thinking that's at risk, being eroded one cute cat video at a time. Don't get us wrong, the internet is good for lots of things, and it should be celebrated. But the best thing we can do for our minds is to find some time every day to unplug, calm down, and focus on one thing at a time. Your email, and those cats, will be here when you get back.
What I like about that video is it really does capture well the power and importance of regulating screen time. The final thing is just a very helpful, practical, especially when it comes to birthdays, graduation presents, or even Christmas time with holidays or whatever specific holiday you may celebrate, where there's an exchange of gifts that are particularly like substantial gifts that usually involves electronic devices with kids. And as a simple kind of principle that I would throw out for you is to, for you as a parent to know the device or there's no device. That in the end of the day, if you are handing to them a powerful elephant, not a stuffed animal elephant, then you really should know it. They should not be the first or the last one to touch their device. In fact, I would encourage you in whatever holiday or gift kind of exchange context you may find yourself in to really kind of set aside a little bit of a window that if you purchase it to give it to them on that Saturday, that you actually get it on Monday and have a chance to get it slightly acquainted with the device itself, that this will help you in knowing how to set up parental restrictions, to how to limiting screen time that most devices actually have built into, whether it's Apple, Android. A lot of them have built into the very fabric of the operating system parental restrictions that could protect your child. I would also encourage you to know the passwords of all their accounts. That at the end of the day, that there is an element that they need to earn your trust in this area. And that by you having the ability at any point to step in and to verify, to check, I mean, it's you probably don't allow your child to have a locked bedroom door or locked drawers inside that bedroom door. That you tend to, as a standard rule for most parents with kids in their house, there's kind of this understood rule that privacy is a privilege. It's not something that you are given. You earn privacy in the house, and you earn it through that trust. And maybe you get a device and you're not sure what to do with it. And maybe you haven't mastered the smartphone, and now you've just purchased your kid a Kindle or an iPad. That when in doubt, Google it. That there are countless videos from how to turn it on to how to unbox it to how to set up parental restrictions. That there are a ton of websites that are incredibly helpful in getting you started as a parent. And just as a recap, here's just a reminder of the work that's required of us as parents. That where the device is located matters. That online choices have offline consequences. To regulate the screen time and to know the device, or there's no device. And in the midst of that, I recognize that even as you hear me say that, you can feel overwhelmed, and that parenting by itself is difficult. That there are challenges every single day, and then to top onto it, the reality of them being digital natives and cyberbullying and passwords and learning their devices and all of these different battles that you can hear already having to be played out with them when you start to implement some new rules. It can feel really, really overwhelming. That this parenting thing is actually a relatively short gig, and that while you may think about every moment and every potential battle like sands on a beach or in a desert, and it's just vast and never ending, especially when you're exhausted because you've been working really hard and you have multiple kids, and it's just so much in the pressures of marriage, the pressures of life, finances, and that while parenting may at times feel overwhelming like sand on a beach, I would encourage you to shift your focus that really it's more like sand in an hourglass. That there will be a day where it's over. The parenting gig, you'll blink and you'll be a grandparent potentially, looking at them parenting. And that's why ultimately this matters, is because you'll soon be at a point where they're out of the house and they're going to take their cue on what to do in adulthood from what they've learned from you. And that's why it's worth, and in introducing them to the network, being aware of the things that can trap them and being willing to be diligent about the work to protect them. Because at the end of the day, parenting isn't so much about protecting as it is preparing. And by implementing these 4 simple steps, these 4 simple principles, you'll not only be protecting them, but you also will be preparing them for the day that they step out on their own and they step into that network as an adult with their own children. I want to thank you for being here, joining us today. I hope you found this helpful. If this was helpful, let us know. We can continue to do more of these seminars or even dive down deeper into specific tools and resources. Hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you.